Now let's spend a few minutes on observational methods. In our series on qualitative research, Leslie Curry went through the data collection methods, the in-depth interviews and focus group discussions, but she did not dwell upon observation, and that's what we'll do in this presentation. Just a reminder that qualitative researchers may combine more than one method, and this is in fact very common. And it's called methods triangulation. Now let's look at observation and participant observation. Now, interviews provide information upon reported behavior, what people say that they do. The strength of observational designs is that they provide information on observed behavior, action and interaction, not only on what people say they do, but also on what people actually do. We can have observation without participation, and we can have observation with participation. And the role of the researcher will vary according to the kind of observation that is going on, from an onlooker, who is an observer from the outside, looking in, and it can be a full participant observer. In 1958, Gold defined ideal types of research roles in observational studies. Now let's look at his figure here. In the bottom right corner, he describes the complete participant. And the complete participant takes an insider role, is fully part of the setting, and often observes covertly. This has some ethical implications. In the right high corner, the participation as observer, here the researcher gains access to the setting by virtue of having a natural and non-research reason for being part of that setting. As observers, they are part of the group being studied. This approach is, for example, relevant in a healthcare setting where members of a healthcare team are interested in observing operations in order to understand and improve care processes. So they are at the same time participants and researchers, observers. In the left high corner is the observer as participant. In this role, the researcher or observer has only minimal involvement in the social setting being studied. There is some connection to the setting, but the observer is not naturally and normally part of that particular social setting. In the left down corner, we have the complete observer. The researcher does not take part in the social setting at all. An example of complete observation might be watching children play from behind a two-way mirror, or it may be doing observational research of video recordings. Now, how about participant observation? Where will we place this in Gold's typology? It would be in the continuum of observer as participant and participant as observer, all depending on which phase of the research we are looking at this. So what is participant observation? It's a method that provides the researcher with an opportunity to both participate and observe. It involves establishing rapport in the community and become integrated in that community. So what can a community be? Can it only be a local community, or can it be something else as well? Yes, indeed, it can be an organization, it can be a hospital ward, it can be a school or a shop, anything that is related to your research question. You can do observational studies. It's learning to act in a way that that people continue their business as usual when you are around, as this photo illustrates here. This is a master's student doing a participant observational studies in Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. We use the concept participant observation and ethnography interchangeably. It's said to be an holistic approach to research with inherent methods triangulation. That is, that we are using several methods for data collection. You can use interviews and conversations, observation, but it's also very common to do interpretation of material culture. It could be an artifact of some kind that is important to understand the phenomenon under study. The techniques from ethnography, including observation of naturally occurring interaction, are used also in healthcare research today. It could be, for example, studying health beliefs in a community, or it could be studying a healthcare organization or care provided by that healthcare organization. We talk about overt and covert roles in observation. And an overt role implies that the researcher is open about the role as a researcher vis-à-vis the study participants. A covert role, on the other hand, means that the researcher works undercover. He could, for example, be a pseudo-patient, or it could be client simulation studies to find out how services are provided. And this is in many ways a very good method of research, providing good quality data, but indeed it raises ethical problems when you do observation without telling your participants that you are observing them and for what reason. Another issue is the structure of the observation. The observations can be very structured or it can be unstructured. And let's look at the structured observation first. In this, the observer is an onlooker. The observed know that they are being observed, but usually they do not know the exact behavior being observed. So focus on a small number of specific behaviors, and the researcher uses a predefined observation list. The actors and the behaviors must be clearly specified. Unstructured observations, on the other hand, is very much used in anthropology, in anthropological studies. Observation is known then, but what is being observed is only broadly defined. This is used, for example, to discover unknown aspects of a problem. It's used for discovery of surprises, the unexpected that we talked about earlier, and understanding behaviors in their physical and social contexts. Access is a challenge in qualitative research in general, and particularly so in observational studies. You have to take into consideration the type of group that you want to study. Is it a formal organization? That would require a formal type of entry. It involves letter writing, permissions, requests, and so on. While informal groups could be much easier to access and can be gained through gatekeepers, an individual with a special status which actually gives you access to, for example, an organization. In these participant observation studies, you want to involve key informants, those who are most knowledgeable about a particular group or topic. In all qualitative studies, it's important to develop rapport, but maybe even more so in observational studies. Researcher must work hard to develop and maintain good relationships in the field. For example, you must be sure that you're not associated with one faction in a group or an organization, so that you are fairly neutral if you're studying power relations, for example. Otherwise, your study can be totally ruined, and you can also do harm to study participants. And you can be blamed for problems that arise in the study setting. While interviews are often recorded, field notes is basic in participant observation. And there are various kinds of notes to be written on a daily basis, actually. There are field notes. Those are descriptions of observations that you have done during the day. They can be done right after an observation, or they can be done in the end of the day, all depending on what is possible and convenient. And it's also important to keep a diary for reflective notes, interpretation of events, and so on. That is more your analysis or your immediate reflections upon a particular topic or event or something that you have taken part in. Tape recording are used for formal interviews, and videos of photos of particular events is very, very good to have when that is ethically justified. In summary, the major strength of observational methods is that they provide data on what people do as well as on what people say they do. Observational methods have clear methodological strength but are not appropriate for all research questions. In healthcare, observational studies may involve particular ethical problems. For example, if you want to do observational studies in a hospital ward.